Hello, everyone. I am Pastor Misty Howick. I'm an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church, and I'm here at New Song United Methodist Church. We are doing the wisdom of the Proverbs, and we are focusing on chapter 6 today. We're doing it every weekday between now and Good Friday. So, Good Friday will take off, and it'll work just perfectly because that is 31 chapters. That is how many chapters are in Proverbs. This is a Lenten spiritual discipline for anyone who would like to take on a daily devotional or a daily time with the Bible. This can be your thing that you do. Lent did start last Wednesday with Ash Wednesday, and so we are now 6 chapters in. This will be our 6th one, but feel free to go back and take a look either on YouTube or Facebook for the previous chapters on what we were reading in chapters 1 through 5. So I've titled this video, Yes, it is mostly about adultery, because the chapters continues the theme that kind of started last chapter, and so there's going to be a lot on adultery here. This is the wisdom from a parent to child. The tradition is a father to a son. It could come from the ancient wisdom ideas that came and were influenced by Egypt and Assyria and other of the cultures there. We will see some influence from that was around with Aesop's fables. So very interesting. And we'll find that today in chapter 6. So let's go ahead and dig in. I'm going to read all of chapter 6, and then we will talk a little bit about it. So it says, "My child, if you have given your pledge to your neighbor, if you have bound yourself to another, you are snared by the utterance of your lips, caught by the words of your mouth. So do this, my child, and save yourself, for you have come into your neighbor's power. Go, hurry, and plead with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep, and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. Go to the ant, you lazy bones. Consider its ways and be wise. Without having any chief or officer or ruler, it prepares its food in summer and gathers its sustenance in harvest. How long will you lie there, O lazy bones? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed warrior. A scoundrel and a villain goes around with crooked speech, winking the eyes, shuffling the feet, pointing the fingers, with perverted mind devising evil, continually sowing discord. On such a one, calamity will descend suddenly, in a moment, damage beyond repair. There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that hurry to run to evil, a lying witness who testifies falsely, and one who sows discord in a family. My child, keep your father's commandment and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them upon your heart always and tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. And when you awake, they will talk with you. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching a light, and the reproofs of discipline are the way of life, to preserve you from the wife of another, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. For a prostitute's fee is only a loaf of bread, but the wife of another stalks a man's precious life. Can fire be carried in the bosom without burning one's clothes? Or can one walk on hot coals without scorching the feet? So is he who sleeps with his neighbor's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. Thieves are not despised, who steal only to satisfy their appetite when they are hungry. Yet if they are caught, they will pay 7-fold. They will forfeit all the goods of their house. But he who commits adultery has no sense, and he who does it destroys himself. He will get wounds and dishonor, and his disgrace will not be wiped away. For jealousy arouses a husband's fury, and he will show no restraint when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation and will refuse a bribe, no matter how great. So that ends chapter 6 of Proverbs. To digest this a little bit, it is broken up into some sections, but not any that are titled in the version of the Bible that I was looking for. So if you look at chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, you'll see that there's a warning there for your promises, for the promises that you make. It says, be careful of what promises you make, because then you are under oath on your promises. It says, you are snared by the utterance of your lips and caught by the words of your mouth. So you become bound to another person. So be careful what you promise, because you'll be expected to live up to those promises. Then from verse 6 on through 15, it starts with this description of the ant. Go to the ant, you lazy bones, consider its ways and be wise. Now, this is really interesting because the ant and the grasshopper are two characters in the story of Aesop's fables. And there's a fable about them, about how the ant is so hardworking that the ant works hard in the summer and in the harvest season, and then in the winter has plenty of food stored up because they worked so hard. Meanwhile, the grasshopper in this fable, in Aesop's fable, goes to the ant, and one mocks them for doing such hard work in the harvest season, and then at wintertime actually comes and begs for food, and the ants don't give it to them, and they say, you should have been working as hard as we should have. Funny enough, Bug's Life from Disney follows a similar theme and is more like a current day or a 20th century adaptation of the Aesop's fable. So, has this been influenced by the same people as Aesop's? I would say yes. So the comparison of the ant and the grasshopper here in Proverbs chapter 6 is yes. They were probably influenced by the same kind of thinking and the same thoughts. And we have Aesop's fables were written or told between 620 and 564 BCE. And one of the thoughts about Proverbs is that they were probably compiled, edited around 709 to 500 BCE. So it's around the same time period. Although we do have Solomon as king like way earlier, about 200 years earlier than that. There was some editing done to these, if Solomon even did any of the writing of these Proverbs. So it is reasonable for us to think that they have the same kind of origin of thought and the same influence. They come from the same influence. In verse 16, it says, there are 6 things that the Lord hates, and 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans, feet that hurry to run to evil, and a lying witness who testifies falsely, and one who sows discord in a family. Now, these kind of follow along with some of the Deuteronomic laws, and follow the 10 Commandments a little bit. There's only 7 here, and it talks about the Lord hating them and that being an abomination to them. And really, this is just to say, you shouldn't do these things. You should be careful. You should be aware of what the Lord loves and what the Lord does not love. And it leads into the rest of the chapter, which is about adultery. So again, we have this come up about this time it's the neighbor's wife. It's a more specific person than what the other chapters were referring to. The other chapters refer to a devious or a scandalous woman, or a prostitute, or a foreign woman. In this case, it is a married woman who belongs to someone who lives nearby. I read a couple of commentaries on specifically the verses here in chapter 6, because this theme will come up again in Proverbs. Apparently this was an issue. This is an issue, one of 2 main issues that Proverbs kind of digs into. One was being obedient to parents, and the other one is adultery. And they're kind of related. But in chapter 6, verse 26, it says, "For a prostitute's fee is only a loaf of bread, but the wife of another stalks a man's precious life." And so the commentary that I was reading talks about how this is a lens into the culture at the time and the double standards that was set for women and men at the time. So, for a married man, sex with a woman is fine if she is single, so aka with a prostitute. But for a married woman, it is never fine because you are property of a man, so there will always be consequences because someone's property has been violated at that time. And it's kind of interesting that so much of this writing that is attributed to Solomon, even if Solomon didn't actually write it, Solomon, it was written in the first chapter that this was from Solomon, so it was at least attributed to him. It's funny that it's all about adultery because if you look at Solomon's life and his story, right, his mother was David and Bathsheba, and David got Bathsheba as a wife out of adultery. She was a married woman, and he had sexual relations with her and then eventually killed her husband in the front lines of war. She bore a child. It says the child died, and he went on and married her, and Solomon was one of their children. Also interesting in that Solomon's son, Amnon, would go on to commit a sexual assault on his sister Tamar and would not marry her as she was begging him to do, to give her back her legal rights and things under law. So just all of this story is so strange that this must have been a part of the story that was told down the family line of, make sure that the boys of the family basically can keep it in their pants. And I know if that sounds harsh, but there's a lot of do not be caught in adultery in Proverbs. And it is written from a father to a son. Now, what can we use this? How can we use this, right? This seems, this seems harsh. This seems also repetitive. For me, it's just another reminder of temptation in our lives. So there is so much temptation, and temptation to act on our strong feelings, whether that is lust and desire or even consuming food, a lust for food, a lust for our neighbors' items and their things and stealing them, strong feelings about, acts of violence towards others. All of these kinds of strong feelings, like, they need to be checked. They need to put into check and know that there are consequences to the actions. So even though chapter 6, that second part of it, is all about adultery, I think that not only can we take that warning about we need to be careful where we put ourselves, how we are influenced by others, we also need to be thinking about temptation in general. And so that's a continuation from chapter 5. I want to know your thoughts. What do you think? Is this something new? Is this a continuation? Do you see anything in here that is interesting besides the ants and the grasshoppers who make an appearance in this chapter? We will see you tomorrow for chapter 7. Then we will break for the weekend and come back on Monday. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.